Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Patrons video today that I'm making for Andreas as part of their custom monthly music review. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on Spotify. It's from an act named Flowerface. I think it's titled Another Life, this song, off of an album titled Baby Teeth. So we're going to listen through this track from start till finish. We're going to hear what we think. And we've got lyrics for this as well, so let's go. Oh, gorgeous.
Back to the city where we fell in love. Now tell me we're better off.
I mean, it's just gorgeous, isn't it? With the sound of the reverb, Misty both on the strings and the vocals.
Back road headlight dancing queen. Backseat where you held my hand. Now tell me it's easier this way. 'Cause I loved you then, and I love you now. What does this all mean? What's it all about? If
Great transition to the head voice.
enough, we can let it die. I will see your face in another life.
And it's kind of nice to have the drums so subtle here. Usually they come in and they're quite, with a lot of tracks the drums come in and they're quite intense, but you just don't have that here. The keys and other parts have more prominence.
Sleepless angel, Sundance kiss, gentle lover, break that fist, don't leave me knocking at your door. Sometimes
Wonder if they're using brushes on the snare.
Sometimes I'm a sparrow or a ghost, just weeping at your window. And someday by the train station, my lover, he will wait for me, and I will look for you. 'Cause I loved you then, and I love you now.
It's great how it rises like that melodically.
This love we already know. If you leave me now, I won't ask you why, but we can start again in another life. Maybe God will let me sleep, or take away these dreams. When you painted yourself red, I wiped all your handprints clean. I do it all for you. Do it all for you.
I mean, it's a phenomenal use of real estate. This is a 4-minute 49 track. There's sufficient dynamic range to keep things entertaining, and a lot of the instruments is just really compelling together.
'Cause I loved you then, and I love you now. What does this all mean? What's it all about? If we leave right now, never tell them why. We can start again in another life.
It almost sounds like a spiritual experience we're having there with these choirs in the higher ranges. The combination of keys, guitar, strings, bass, and drums with now there is, it's really pleasant, even with the minor motif. We got a lower string section, like I want to say cello, not sure why. But no, that was a fantastic track. Genuinely, I haven't really heard a lot of music like this, so thanks to Andreas for suggesting it. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Flowerface, titled Another Life, if I'm not mistaken, off of the album Baby Teeth. Now, what do I think this track is about? My best guess is that this track is about someone who is looking at the lover that they used to have, or someone that was initially very close to them, and they've separated or been split apart by something, and they're basically desperate to rekindle things or to have a reconnection there, some way of moving forward, because the lack of that connection or closeness between them is affecting their ability to exist, really, like they aren't able to sleep and stuff like that. So I'm wondering if maybe there was a bit of controversy with the way they got together or the way they split apart. Like saying at the end, like that they wouldn't let anybody know or anything like that. I think that's kind of the angle we're going for here, is that maybe it's a bit of forbidden love, and they're just, they're saying, hey, I know that things haven't ended the way we wanted them to, and that people could potentially have some issues with this, but I still want to try and commit to it either way, and I'm hoping that you'll come with me, and no one needs to know about it. I think there's a bit more nuance to it. It's a very mystical track. The way the vocals were done, with that intense breathiness, whether it was the main solo vocals in the center or the overdubs that were like harmonizing in fourths or something like that, it was very regal sounding. It was delicate. It was like snowflakes. It was gorgeous and pristine and pretty and fragile, and it was it made a lot of sense with the vocal style. It's someone who's struggling to sleep, just running out of energy and running out of breath, and just desperate, crawling across the ground towards the person that they really need that from, begging them for it. Saying they'll wipe their hands clean of all the red and all the blood and stuff like that. So maybe some really bad stuff came down, and they're like, no, all the sins, we'll do it. I'll do it all for you, I think the vocal performance with the compelling head and chest voice, the vocal technique was good. We had interesting use of legato and some vibrato passages there, so interesting melodic tails there. Ultimately, like a really satisfying performance there, not just from like the style of it, but also the way it was implemented. And again, I can see a clear connection between the way we did the vocals and the story, so it's very compelling. The track at 4 minutes 49, it had a great use of real estate. We had a longer track with different verse and chorus sections there. The focal point was typically the vocals and the storytelling, but I should note that it was really splendid to listen to the string sections, the guitars, the bass, the keys, and the drums. It was a complicated composition, not technically complicated, but it's just the layering and how mesmerizing it was, and not just that, the effects change in the studio processing and stuff like that, and post stuff, but we'll talk about that in the post-production section. But if I was to sort of highlight a few of the things I really appreciated, one of them was just the relative sameness of the way we approached the different bass lines and chord progressions, but how they were articulated by the various instruments. I think the guitar parts that we had worked around those chord triads incredibly well and never overplayed. There wasn't a need for another solo instrument outside of the vocals in this one, because there was enough variety within the singing and the different ways it was implemented to keep it entertaining and engaging. I think that the guitar were a nice foil to the piano parts that we had there when they came in with a bit of sparkle in the mid to high range there. The lower range being covered by the bass, which covered the root notes incredibly well, was loyal to the bass line, and the bass stayed there and was meaningful regardless of whether or not the drums were going. The drums, when they came in like about a minute in or something like that, were very subtle, and they were diminutive, but not in a way that was poor or displeasing. I think that the drums were quiet to make room for everything else, and it was more of a smooth transition. We wanted a sense of sameness, moderate, kind of sort of barely noticeable crescendo between the start and the finish. And we managed to accomplish that here. I think that the way things were implemented and like layered within the arrangement was satisfying. And there was just this misty, reverb-laden sort of like sort of introspective take on the entire tone and vibe of it that allowed for any 8th or 16th note grooves on the drums to coalesce well with the whole note bass lines, with the strummed guitar parts, with the piano, with the keys on the right hand. And as well as with the string sections where we had some mid to low range resonances there, I think some cello, maybe some like violin or something like that, or maybe a viola or something like that. I really need to double check my strings, but it was pleasing to have that. I think that added a bit of kind of grit, but not in an unpleasant way. It was more just like it grounded. I think the string section grounded in it, and I think you could have potentially gone a little bit too sort of like, how to describe it, fluffy. Like I think if you hadn't had the hardness of some of those lower strings there, it would have been a little bit too kind of cloudy and airy for my personal tastes there. So I think that was just a way of letting you, maybe getting the listener to come down to earth with the relative how mid and high range things were. But like the theme itself, actually no, there was variation to the chord progressions and bass lines. I think we had differences between the verses and choruses. There was ascending and descending sort of melodies and modulation within those shapes there, and the strings and keys mirrored that really well and supported it on its journey and progression there. And there were pauses as well within the arrangement. We had nothing, and I like the iteration of the vocals near the end part with just the silence over top of it to kind of help sort of appreciate everything when it had gone. I think it was very well split up. There was very little to no filler at all within this track. And ultimately, it was just a really satisfying performance where there were no standout instrumentalists or musicians. It was more like a team effort with a phenomenal amount of chemistry that really helped to associate and create an environment where things tonally, thematically, it just seemed like a whole lot of thinking was going on, like a whole lot of dreaming was going on. We were kind of idealizing what that perfect sort of situation would be like if that person did go away with us or decide to take us back. That was what I thought the music sounded like there. There were smooth, a lot of legato movements there, no really hard parts where like we were kind of chunking away at it. I think it would have been a little bit too kind of vicious if we tried to do that. I was trying to carry you through the thought processes of the vocalist, and I think that it achieved that well. I mean, finally, with the theme discussed to an extent that I feel I can do so on the first listen basis, we have the studio production, recording, mixing, and mastering, which I thought was pleasing. It was well balanced with the various instruments within the arrangement, both in terms of the frequency spectrum with no resonant frequencies there, and a stereo feel with things nice and wide there. The music did surround you, and I really appreciated that. The vocals sounded crystal clear in the mix, even with the reverb and other sort of tails they had on them, which allowed them to float in the ether. There was sufficient dynamic range. Things weren't the same loudness all the time. Things did just completely come down to a stop occasionally, which is just really solid recording. It shows that they had that ground floor, noise floor just completely nailed. And for it then to be nice and loud without pumping shows the quality and, you know, the level of mastering. It's very good. The bus compression limiting was handled incredibly well. And I mean, effectively, this is my review of this track from an act named Flowerface, titled Another Life, off of their Baby Teeth album, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love via their various social medias and Spotify page, and stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SB Patrons video. Spiderhands up.